Hi, I'm Kanchana Raman, President, Founder of Avion Networks. I'm delighted to have a luminary serial entrepreneur like Jay Chaudhry, CEO, Chairman, Founder of ZScaler with us today. We will talk about what is top of mind for many of you, how to become a successful entrepreneur in security and other emerging technologies. We will discuss Jay's many entrepreneurial ventures, particularly ZScaler. What does the journey look like and key takeaways from his wisdom? I met Jay when he was here in Atlanta, and Thai Atlanta had organized a memorable farewell for Jay in 2007. Please join me in welcoming Jay to Matrix 2022. Jay?
Kanchana, thank you for the opportunity. I'll be glad to share my thoughts. We're all learning from each other all the time.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Jay. I think, we are talking to the Matrix Forum, a think tank initiative for Thai. And as we recently learned, Thai Bangalore is one of the first chapters started in 1999. And the Matrix Forum started in 2014. The Matrix Forum is now a vibrant community of over 2,500 IoT startups and 25,000 community members. And we have the honor of addressing the 7th edition of Matrix, which focuses on 3 broad themes: digital next, sustainability growth, and future tech. So for the benefit of the audience, we are going to focus on making it as relevant as possible, since both Jay and I have been entrepreneurs for 25 years. So Jay, the saying goes, never let a crisis go waste. From a pandemic, now we are entering an endemic phase, hopefully. The initial days of the pandemic, with the lockdowns in place to stop the spread of the virus, ensuring business continuity of critical services by hospitals to save lives, suddenly supporting a dispersed workforce, you have made an important contribution during a global crisis by providing a scalable solution to make an impact on the well-being of society. How does it feel?
Well, Kanchana, it has been very gratifying. It has been very satisfying. All of us know when COVID shutdown happened, suddenly all of us had to stay home. But economy depends upon business activity. That means employees being able to do the job, and their livelihood depends upon it. So when shutdown happened, I got calls from so many CIOs around the globe. Some of them were our customers, some of them were prospects we're working with. They said on Monday, for example, Monday, March the 16th, Europe got into lockdown mode. They said, we need our employees to be able to work from home securely. And it was essentially coming to full maturity of the solution I dreamed of in 2008, where the ZScaler starting notion was any employee should be able to work from anywhere, no matter where the applications are, no matter where the user is. So gratifying to help people as their livelihood depends upon being able to work. And we probably had millions and millions of people who came online on the ZScaler cloud security platform. This is very simple. Then trying to take legacy firewalls and VPNs and try to spin them in the cloud and here and there. So the solution designed for this world worked extremely well. So very, very happy with our contribution.
Thank you for what you've done, Jay, what your company and your team have done. It's been seamless. Talking about scalability, one of the biggest challenges is how do you scale seamlessly, right? It was almost like there was an emergency. So can you maybe talk about that? Because I know, in terms of engineers, there was a challenge across the board. So maybe scalability is a big thing for any business.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on it?
So scalability doesn't happen after the fact. Scalability has to be built in the design. All engineers know that. You scale for a certain type of solution, certain type of audience, and it doesn't just go up and down. Take power generators that are designed for home use. They don't scale to become a power plant to provide power to the entire city or state. Take DVD players that are designed to deliver music to a person. You can't take millions of DVD players, put them in a data center and say, I got Netflix streaming service. So when you have to design a cloud security service that scales, you need to keep that architecture in mind, and you design to optimize everything to build a scalable system. The contrast was companies tried to take their legacy VPN to provide remote secure access. And they would spin a VPN, a virtual machine, a second, a third, and fourth. That's like DVD players, you know, in a small scale, it works well. It seemed like to give a good demo, but in the large scale, it doesn't work well. You know, the name ZScaler stands for Zenith of Scalability. There's a story behind it. When I was really thinking about the idea of it, I went to see the CISO of Coca-Cola, who was a good friend of mine. And I said, I think his name was Tom Platz, actually.
In Atlanta, right? Yeah.
Yes. He said, would you buy the solution? He said, of course. I said, so how many security appliances do you have? He looked around, he found over 100 security appliances. And I left the meeting saying, yeah, Tom will buy the solution, but if it takes me 100 plus security boxes to serve one customer, how many boxes will I need to serve tens of thousands of customers? The solution must be highly, highly scalable. So to really make sure the company is fully focused on scalability, we said, let's name the company ZScaler, Zenith of Scalability. And it has served us well. Every 18 months, our traffic has been doubling. You know, doubling from nothing to 1 billion transactions seemed big. We had a big party when our daily number of transactions in the cloud went to 1 billion. But now, today, it's about 240, 245, 250, 235 billion every day. And it has been doubling. It is the architecture that provides you scalability, and that's the right thing my architects and engineers did.
So talking about celebration, Jay, how do you celebrate? You know, how does the company celebrate? How does the family celebrate on such enormous success?
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, success of a company depends upon the team. The startup success depends upon the core group of 3, 4, 5 people who come together. They all need to be really committed and passionate. Quite often, startups make the mistake. They think that this is a way to get rich quick. Most people who go with that mindset are disappointed. And I think when you really want to do a startup in a given area, you actually learn about it, you learn more, you become more convinced, you become more passionate, and it's a passion that gives you energy. And when that passion comes together from a lot of number of key people, good things happen, good products are built, they solve real customer problems, and customers like it. So you celebrate every win. You can't imagine how happy my engineers were when first time a cloud went online. Next thing, when a large customers like General Electric deployed ZScaler, I mean, engineers were over the moon. Now, there are lots of issues to deal with early on. No matter how smart you are, whatever product you're building will have issues you need to sort through. And it's an ongoing process, and making sure people stay focused on delivering the best and the most reliable product is important. Sometimes engineers get hung up on innovation and they give up or they compromise on reliability of the service. Especially for ZScaler, reliability is so important. We are the switchboard that connects every user to every application. If we have a hiccup, business stops. I mean, it's not just access to CNN. It is really doing transactions. Billions of dollars of business gets done as people go through our platform. So for me, reliability is number one because user experience is important and security is, of course, important. So celebrating these wins along the way is very important. I have my core team of engineers who started with me very early on. Other than a couple who retired, all others are still part of the team because they're so proud of what they built. I think it's a pride, it's a sense of satisfaction that drives people. It's a sense of accomplishment. I mean, these people became financially independent years ago. They could go to the beach and do whatever they need to do, but they are working because they're having fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I read about the white paper with Johnson Controls, and I thought that was just a phenomenal deployment in the midst of the pandemic.
Yes.
So I think there's just so many great stories over there of the impact you've made, Jay. So definitely hats off. I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about why you chose to devote your time and energy to the security industry. Many of us interact with security protocols like VPNs, firewalls, etc., without even thinking about it. However, you seem to realize early on that modern security models will no longer be effective as the computing landscape migrates to the cloud and the evolution and scale of remote work increases. Can you elaborate on why you decided to dive into security and what you spotted as the key opportunity to disrupt and reinvent a new security model?
Yeah, Kanchana, probably what you call modern security model, I would call it current security model that started in early 90s. So it's no longer modern. So I got into startup world by accident. Okay. But when I decided to do a startup, and it was all after reading about Netscape, the company that Mark Andreessen launched, and it went public. There's a lot of publicity around it. Probably the first high flyer, Valley internet-centric company. I read up everything about it and I loved it. The more I read about it, the more I fell in love with it. And the question I asked myself, why can't I do a startup? There's no background of entrepreneurship in my family of small scale farmers. So we decided to do the startup. The next question was, which area? Okay. So this is probably fundamental to how I think. I always want to go for a new area, fast mover advantage. Okay. And when you go for a new area, there's no IDC data to prove how big the market is. You are taking some chances. But it was obvious to me that if internet takes off, if all these companies connect to the internet, they will need some kind of security. And firewalls are being built at that time. And I felt that if all these firewalls need to be deployed, somebody needs to know how to deploy them, how to architect them, how to support them. So Secure IT was started as a security services company. And it was done as a services company because I couldn't raise any funding. So you couldn't do a product without significant funding. And my wife and I ended up putting a life saving on the line.
So but, Jay, though you had all that experience, VCs weren't throwing money at you.
Right. No, they asked a simple question. What startups have you done before? Zero. I say, how much have you sold? I mean, they will say, sell something and come back and talk to us. I didn't tell them, but I said, if I sold something, I probably won't need you. I mean, that's what happened. We put our life savings. It was the biggest and the best gamble of our lives, and it paid off. So I think that the lesson in that thing was, you look for a new market opportunity, a new pain that's evolving and emerging, others haven't solved it. That was number one. Number two was, let's be ready to take risk. If you aren't taking risk, you aren't going to get anything significant. And the way you rationalize risk is, what's the worst that can happen if your venture fails? That's really was probably the defining moment in starting ZScalers, Secure IT with our own funding. If things don't work out, company will fail, we'll lose our savings. Then what? Well, we can find a job. I mean, that's really was what took us there. Now, back to your question on security. So at that time, I started selling, deploying, designing firewalls, VPNs, a bunch of technologies. And after Secure IT, I did 2 other security startups, Cypher Trust, an email security company, and Air Defense, a wireless security company. These are all traditional castle and moat security, firewall centric and the like. But as I saw over the years, that in spite of organizations spending millions and millions of dollars on these legacy-based security, hacks and attacks are happening. The world was shifting where applications are moving to the cloud. Applications are becoming SaaS applications. People are becoming all mobile. The notion of building a castle and moat with firewalls and VPNs seemed outdated. So the notion was, let's not do network security of securing the network. Let's think differently. Let's build a switchboard, an exchange where everyone is untrusted. A user comes to the switchboard, we validate you. Who are you? Where are you trying to go? Do you have access? Our policy allows you to go there. If all that criteria meets, we connect the right person to right application. What do firewalls do? They put you on the network. It's like you're in the castle, you can go anywhere and everywhere. And I think inertia is a powerful thing. It holds things back. So a lot of people are comfortable with what they know. So for someone to come with a new idea that's disruptive, it takes a fair amount of evangelism. But once the market starts getting it, you start getting lots of momentum. Well, look at what it took for electric cars to get traction. Quite a bit. You know, Tesla is not new. It's over 10 years old thing. And they did an amazing job. When my team comes and tells me that it's so hard to displace some of the legacy technology because a lot of these old people are kind of holding on to their boxes. We call them box huggers, okay? But I tell them, if Tesla could take on this whole traditional car business and upend them, why can't we upend this legacy firewall and VPN business? And when we get all these wins, they really are exciting and people feel great to move forward and dive to the next level. So the changing landscape, 2 things drove me to come up with a new model. One was the threats were growing in spite of millions of dollars spent on this firewall and VPN centric business. 2, cloud and mobility happened. And trying to take firewalls and VPNs and spin them in a cloud and call them cloud security is like building a Netflix streaming service or DVD players. It just doesn't work.
So Jay, you made an interesting point about you and your wife deciding to quit a job, and then the worst thing that can happen is the ability to go back and get a job. So I know there's a lot of debate going on about, college dropouts going on their entrepreneurial journey. So what is your take on it?
Look, there is no black and white answer, but I personally believe that it's good to get some real work experience. Okay, we all need to learn, and we're learning every day. You could learn technology. You could figure out technology, people management, leadership, figuring out, building teams, all that stuff is very different, just writing code and some cool technology. So if you really want to be an entrepreneur and be the CEO or one of the management leaders, I do believe that it is good to get some real life experience. If you ask me, probably one of the biggest factor behind my success has been my sales experience at IBM. IBM was an amazing training ground for sales, and that played a big role.
So you're talking about the entrepreneurial landscape, right? So what changes have you seen in the last 25 years since you started?
One big thing that's happening is everything is moving at a faster and faster pace. Okay. Technology is changing. It's impacting businesses. Businesses have to move fast. Look at how many Fortune 500 companies have been disrupted. If you read the book, Good to Great, a bunch of companies that are supposed to be great are nowhere on the scene. They're no longer in even the Dow Jones Index. What it tells you is that the landscape, the market's changing at such a fast pace, and it's being disrupted by technology. And we need to move fast in all areas. If you are working for a large company, your company needs to move fast. All the CIOs, CISOs, and CTOs I talk to, they're all working on figuring out how to increase the speed of innovation. How do you connect with your customer, your suppliers in a more seamless fashion, providing them more meaningful information? All that thing has to happen. It's all powered by technology. So entrepreneurs need to move at a faster pace in the right area. And I think sometimes people like to think that they can start creating a new business in an area they don't have a lot of core competency. They think it's a cool area. I believe that to be successful, you need to have core competencies. You need to learn something. You may not have all core competencies, and you bring some people along from certain areas, but understanding a core area, understanding the problem at depth is important. I personally don't know a whole lot about consumer markets, but I spent most of my career dealing with enterprises. When I start something, I make sure I understand the issues. The other point I'll mention to you is technology is evolving all the time, but mega shifts happen only from time to time, every 20 to 30 years. They are very disruptive. And if you're building disruptive technology, then you shouldn't talk to any customers. I don't. When I built ZScaler, very few customers actually told me that, yeah, that's what they're looking for. I did run it by a bunch. But overall, customers can give you feedback about incremental changes you need to make. Customers didn't ask me that you should build a cloud-based security service. Now, once you do that, then incrementally things need to be improved with how customer interacts with, engages with it and all. That can help. So there's the interesting way to look at, and that's what I try to balance between the two.
I like that subject matter expertise. I think it's very important, before you start and to scale and be successful and, have a sustainable business model, So great segue to my next question. You said, every 30 years there is a disruptive business. Successfully navigating the evolving startup landscapes, you have seen ups and downs in the market, and seeing the economic future in technology companies is a hot topic at the moment. And there are undertones of an upcoming recession. Mm-hmm. Can you share what are some of the key values or lessons that helped you achieve success regardless of the market environment around you? I'm talking about since you continue to start even during those economic downturns, like starting with air defense, Cypher Trust, Core Harbor, Secure ID, and now ZScaler.
Yeah, ZScaler was actually started at the last downturn of 2008. Okay, so since I was funding it, so I kind of felt it was a great time to actually spend a couple of years to build some serious technology. And by the time the market turns around, we'll be ready to go and start selling our products. It actually worked out pretty well. The other thing I believe in is that a founder and entrepreneur should put some money in the company, get some skin in the game. Now, I funded my own companies first because I had no choice. Late all others because I had a choice. Okay. But when you put your own money, you deal with it very differently. I think when market becomes too open with funding and all, the habits of hiring the right people, spending the money become really bad. Okay. I think business should always be prudent. I do tell my employees that you should spend a company's money as if your own money. I think it's a good value that helps everyone all along, and it keeps us grounded. I mean, you're reading the same articles I'm reading out there, and I'm talking to the same kind of companies who kind of thought the valuation will always be 50x, or you got a $5 million in sales and you can expect $500 million market cap. I mean, those kind of things are fluffy for a while. They've gone away, they're going away, but core technology and its value is always needed. If you are solving real problems, if customers see real value, your company will do well. I think entrepreneurs need to take a long-term view of success rather than a quick build it, flip it. Now, you find some of those things have happened from time to time, but in the overall scheme of things, companies that really solve your problems, so make it happen, yes.
So Jay, the question was, sorry to interrupt, 2008, you said you started ZScaler during the previous economic downturn. So can you walk us through conceptualizing the idea, building the MVP, funding, obviously you said you self-funded it, scaling the business to the world-class company it is today, and also I think for the benefit of the audience, how did you take the idea from vision to execution, and when did you really see the growth from when you started in 2008?
Right. So first of all, building the idea, right? Many times people think that, how did you see that early where the market was headed? It was actually fairly straightforward. If you go to 2008, internet was the source of most of the information that are still there. 2, I have been using Salesforce and NetSuite, the 2 key SaaS companies in all of my startups since year 2001, when each was under $10 million in annual sales. 3, we're all mobile. We are using laptops. Trio BlackBerrys were widely used, and iPhone was just announced with a big screen. And so those 3 things were obvious. And 4th was, I said, if more business happens on the internet with cloud applications and we become mobile, will there be need for security, internet security? Answer to me was, wherever business happens, bad guys want a piece of action without working hard. So there will be need for security. And if the answer to these 4 questions were yes, then we needed to build a cloud-based security. So from day one, our really focus was any user should be able to access any application anywhere. We haven't really changed our vision from day one. We have expanded it to cover more and more things. So I like to think of vision as a kind of a concentric circle that are expanding. You start with a small bullseye. You do well in that area, then you add the next layer, and the next layer. So the service we built was very well architected and built. No, there was not a massive demand out there. We had to go and evangelize. If I met 10 security leaders and presented what we have built, 8 of them will say, well, 4 of them will say, oh, you're crazy. 4 will say, not really interested. Seems intriguing, but not interested. And 2 will say, wow, what a great idea. We will love to try. So just those 2 smart security leaders who were sharp, who got it, gave us actually all the inspiration that others are laggards. They'll come over time. Let's go and close these 2. Right? You don't need to close thousands of customers in a startup. Right? So our revenue actually started to take off pretty well. I mean, first year we did about 2 million, went to about 11 million. From there, went to about 24 million. So the growth was pretty good from starting from where we are. But we kind of kept a pretty good growth rate. If you look at a growth rate starting early on, it has been in the, CAGR has been in the probably 70, 80% range overall, right? But things do take time. I mean, now we are sitting north of $1 billion in annual recurring revenue. And even at that scale, we are growing at over 60% year-over-year rate. It's pretty remarkable. Generally, when you get bigger, your growth rate slows down because it's a lot of large numbers, right? Growing 100% on a base of $1 million is easy. Growing 100% on $1 billion is a lot harder.
Congratulations.
So, but it takes a good product, a good team that's solving customer problems and having passion for solving problems is important. Most entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking that the technology is outstanding. The problem is with sales. Okay. They're biased. Okay. I think sales is always hard. Okay. A founding CEO should go out and try to sell the first 5 or 10 deals. If they can't sell it, they can't blame anyone else. In fact, the CEO founder should be the #1 salesperson in the company most of the time. And if you do well in sales, things keep on happening. If you think your technology is very cool, but sales aren't happening, your technology isn't cool. Okay.
So I read a quote where you said that 10% of startups will do well, another 10% will do okay, but a majority of 80% will not succeed. What would you advise entrepreneurs to do to minimize the chances of failures?
Well, we all know the success rate in a startup world is very, very low. Okay, that's because it's not easy. There are markets out there, big players out there. Too many times, entrepreneurs start building a product that feels like 20% better or 20% cheaper. That's not good enough. If you think you're building something that's 20% better, that competition, even if it's a large company, they're not sitting. They're improving upon their stuff too. So the way I like to think is the following. My solution has to be either disrupted or 5x, 10x better than what the customer is doing today. If it happens to require a new architecture, then you are in a much, much better position because architecture can't be changed overnight. Features can be added. So if you think about what you're building, if it is on a new, better, simpler architecture, you will succeed. Example of architecture could be, say, for example, electric car. And traditional car, they look similar, but you open the hood, everything is different. How can traditional big car companies compete with electric cars? Well, finally, they're coming around. They're still trying to catch up after 10 years. So the first mover advantage you get is significant. If only if you have a good go-to market machine. Otherwise, others will come from behind and overtake you.
Jay, thank you for that valuable advice. As you know, the conference Matrix 2022 is by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, focused on business transformation of OT through IoT, edge, AI, and future tech. Very similar to ZScaler. What are some of the opportunities you're excited to see built in this space over the next few years? And what are some of the common challenges that come along with our industry?
Right. So if you think of IoT, OT, AI, they're all related topics. IoT generally allowing us to get tons and tons of telemetry to make all kinds of decisions. There's a big opportunity in that area. The more telemetry you collect, the more and better decisions you can make. And that's where AI/ML plays a big role, because without that AI/ML engine, you can't really get meaningful information out of it. OT takes several different dimensions. The OT area ZScaler is working on is to help all these large companies who have industrial control systems out there. They need to be secured. And these industrial control systems are running big plants and factories. And the funny thing we find is they are being accessed from remote places by third-party contractors using old school legacy VPN type of technology, which is really dangerous. I mean, VPN puts you on the network so you can get on and go wherever you need to go, which is dangerous. So this opportunity to really provide better zero trust-based security access to OT systems. In fact, ZScaler is doing some work with companies like Siemens in this area. So the opportunity for IoT OT world is to bring zero trust security, which is the opposite of traditional network-centric security. The market for industrial systems generally moves a little slower, but once you get in, you're there because plants and factories don't like to make changes too frequently. But IoT also is a big market. IoT has its opportunities in the consumer area. It has opportunity in every kind of vertical area. It has opportunities where telemetry can do better preventative maintenance for some of these big plants and factory equipment and the like. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Not too much has been done in this space.
So Jay, great session. In terms of closing remarks, I know we are from India. We are talking to successful startup entrepreneurs in Bangalore. And considering your background in India and your journey, any thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll make a couple of points. First, I think India has great talent. Okay, just about 40% of ZScalers employees are in India. Okay, I don't recall the exact number, but somewhere between 35 to 40%. And they're great, passionate, young engineers and customer engineers and the like. So I think that there's good talent to build startups in India. Number two, I think it's great to see that the startup world in India has been taking off pretty rapidly for the last 4 or 5 years or so. China kind of got an early start. They got so many successful startups. We in India actually understand software a lot more than China does. So I think it'll be good to see more and more Indian entrepreneurs build these startups. I read about all the successful companies that have been there. I think you need to be mindful as the recession is coming, the money is getting tighter. How do you make sure you manage those funds? Some of young entrepreneurs in India probably have never seen a recession. It's always a balancing act. You can't totally shut down and say, I'm not going to do a whole lot. Focus more on customers and sales. The best money is not the money you raise from a VC. The best money is the money that comes because you're selling to your customers. That comes without giving any equity. And that's a long-term thing. So double down on sales if you can.
Definitely. That's valuable advice, Jay. So we have a rapid fire round for you. So I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to read out a few words, and if you can say in one sentence what comes to your mind first. So let's go. Ready?
Yes.
All right. Passwordless environment.
It's happening. It has to happen because passwords have failed us.
Quantum computing.
Big promise, big challenges. Eventually we'll get there.
Cryptocurrency and Web3.
It'll have its ups and downs. Crypto, dealing with money, it's unregulated stuff, has lots of challenges. I stay away from it.
Fintechs and traditional banking.
Traditional banking will be disrupted. It's being disrupted. Big opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Privacy concerns.
Sometimes they're overblown. Sometimes they're real. There needs to be a right balance between privacy and freedom to use data.
Metaverse.
It's good for certain markets. It's overblown for others. There's certain industries where it'll go in early on, but others, it'll take time.
5G adoption.
5G is wonderful. It'll happen at a fast pace because we all need to move lots and lots of data back and forth. And 5G is great technology. The rolling out of 5G is taking time, but it will accelerate.
That's all I have for you, Jay. Any closing thoughts you want to share with Matrix 2022?
Kanchana, thank you for the opportunity. I was involved in starting the Thai Atlanta chapter in 98, 99 timeframe. It's great to see what Thai has done to inspire Indian entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is a great area. I mean, if you really, to me, it's addictive, okay? But it requires a lot of work. Find your passion, do the startup in the area of your passion, then you can stick to it and you should find great results. Good luck.
Thank you, Jay. On behalf of Jay and I would like to thank you for giving us an opportunity to be part of Matrix 2022. Thank you for your time, Jay. Take care.
Thank you.